Now we have some wonderful looking pictures here of a whole lot of spacecraft that are suddenly being developed. And we're being told that private space is just around the corner, that no longer is the government going to be in control of moving people to and fro. And the government for 50 years or so has been, the American government has been making space travel really hard. They haven't made it easy. We've been using this old blunderbuss, wonderful piece of equipment, the space shuttle, but terribly expensive and designed right from the outset to be really expensive and hard and labour intensive to refurbish. It costs $500 million to send the space shuttle up and refurbish it for the next flight. Space travel's been purposely made difficult to keep us anchored here to the earth while the New World Order elites build up their plan for world domination and get all the pieces in place. And there's a time to every purpose under heaven, and they are working to their calendar for the return of their gods. So, is it private space or spaceport Babylon? I personally love space travel. I've got an interest in this sort of thing. I've got a heavenly sort of mindset, and there's nothing wrong with any of these sorts of devices. I don't see any problem, but we're obviously getting ready for the return of the New Age gods. And the gods, the Babylon, the hold of every unclean beast. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to one another. And so all of these transportation devices that are being developed for a particular time. And this is only a small minority of the plethora of reusable spacecraft that are being developed. This one is being developed by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com. This one by Elon Musk of SpaceX. He's developed a first privately developed rocket that went to the International Space Station. Here he is outside of the Dragon capsule. Very interesting name. Of course, he reckons that's just named after puffin stuff or something like that. I don't know what he's puffing, but he's not going to pull the wool over my eyes. There's more going on. You can't play with the big boys unless you've done the secret handshakes. And there's more going on than meets the eye. Here we have the all-seeing eye of, is it Richard Branson or his grandmother? I'm not sure. But he's developed this privately developed reusable suborbital spacecraft. Here's a chap named Robert Bigelow next to the former Deputy Administrator of NASA, Laurie Garver. And he's outside his inflatable space habitat, space station modules that he hopes to put into a privately developed space station in the future. Here's a picture of the Dream Chaser, a reusable shuttle that goes on top of either an expendable or reusable rocket. And there's many other devices like this that are being developed right now, and they all should be ready. Their prototypes should be tested during 2014 and 15, during those blood moons. And they should be ready for operation about 2017, which is about the same time as 50 years after the establishment, the capture of Jerusalem, which was 50 years after the 1917 capture of Jerusalem from the Turks. So things are working to a calendar, and as Israel comes together, so does last days Babylon. So getting back to Israel, as we're told in Jeremiah 31, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I'll make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." So it's with both houses. But we haven't come into the fullness of this yet, but it's not too far away. So this covenant is not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts, and I will write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now, when God brings the 10 tribes from the land of the north and unites them and brings the house of Judah together, and 10 Gentiles will grab the garment of a Jew and say, we know that God's with you. We're going to have those 10 tribes, those 10 Gentiles that are not Gentiles, joining with the house of Judah. We're going to have Judah joining with the house of Israel, coming out of the north country and coming back to the land of Israel. But they might be going out of the land, the north country of America, returning to Israel through the north country of Babylon or Iraq. And America has built their largest embassy there. So we've got something afoot. And as the elites build their world capital in Babel, and wickedness returns to the land of Shinar through nuclear war and devastation, we'll also have the remnant of the lost tribes and Judah returning to the land of Israel. So we have some things to look forward to. As already discussed, we've got the return of the Jews to the land of Israel through World War I and II, and we've got now the regathering of the lost tribes and the rest of the Jews through World War III. And then we're going to have the Gog-Magog war, the pre-tribulation temple rebuilt, the return of Elijah. And as that's happening, Babylon's coming together at the same time. And then a generation or so later, we'll have the tribulation. So, the timeline, as already discussed, we'll have the decline of the USA, the North Country, and there's a connection between the USA and that final North Country, which is along the Euphrates. And then we'll have World War III and the transfer of the lost tribes out of America and to that North Country, which is in Iraq, and the joining of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. And they're going to come out of the North Country. Then we'll have the rebuilding of the third temple, the Davidic kingdom, and we're going to have a time of prosperity and then a time of decline of regathered Israel. And that's when the bride goes to sleep and then she wakes up suddenly and she has to get the curlers out of her hair and get ready. So there's an apostasy right at the end. It's spoken of in 2 Thessalonians 2:3 when the Antichrist is revealed and are falling away, just like in Genesis 24:64 where Rebekah fell off a camel. But the true daughters of Rebekah will get back on their camel. And then we'll have the tribulation, the second coming, and the building of the fourth temple, or millennial temple. So the rebuilding of the third temple will occur as the lost tribes return. And the house of David is re-established, the Tabernacle of David, which has fallen, as described in earlier slides. And again, here's our timeline, and we're right about here, just before Babylon comes together. And we'll be leaving the north country of America through the north country of Babylon, Iraq, and into the promised land after a world war or through a world war. So we have World War I and the League of Nations, World War II, the United Nations, and World War III and Babylon. And at the same time as World War I and the League of Nations, we had the Jewish homeland. At the same time as World War II and the State of Israel coming together, we had the United Nations. And at the same time as World War III and the return of the lost tribes, we have Babylon. Then we are going to be in the land. The house of David is going to be, the tabernacle of David is going to be raised up, and the third temple is going to be rebuilt. The Gog-Magog war occurs just before that, and we're living safe and secure. Then we fall asleep, and then we have a final wake-up call, and then the tribulation occurs and so forth. So we need to wake up now. We've got a wake-up call now, and then we're going to have a wake-up call right before the tribulation itself. But there's great hope for Israel, because God's not out to destroy Israel. Time of Jacob's trouble come, but he shall be saved. But all the sinners of his people will be cut off.